From a personal standpoint, I enjoy being a black African American person. I also extremely enjoy being a person born and raised in the South and Southern culture, even if the Southern culture and the black African Americanness sometimes don't exactly make life happy in the past and in the right now. And so this is a story that is more of a thing that's like a curiosity because I've always been curious about this monument, but also a curiosity about the thinking of the people behind what goes on. Now, bear with me here. This one's going to get a little weird, so go with it. A Georgia chapter of the Sons of the Confederate Veterans have filed a lawsuit against Stone Mountain Park in Georgia. They claim the Parks Board violated state law by approving a new exhibit on slavery, segregation, white supremacy, and by relocating some Confederate flags that were on the premises from the site's walking trail. Since 2021, Stone Mountain Park's governing body has approved a $11 million renovation to include truth-telling exhibits in its memorial hall. That was designed by Warner Museums, and the display aims to cover the carvings of originals' lost cause ideology, explain the ties to the revival of the KKK during Birth of a Nation, and narratives of black community that once lived nearby. Essentially, telling the other side of the Confederate story from the side of not Confederates, from the not happy side of people who are trying to live up a memory that isn't exactly the way it played out in real life. The Sons of Confederate Veterans assert that the changes, especially moving the flags and reframing the park's messaging, contradict state law protecting the monument's original commitment and its intent. When they come after history, that's against the law, says Martin O'Toole with the organization. Curious. History. History being written by, as we all know, the winners of war, the people who survive, the winners. The Confederates are the losers. We'll get back to that in a second. Supporters of the exhibit argue it corrects a long-standing glorification of Confederate ideals and sheds light on racial oppression tied to the site itself. Pointing to the Stone Mountain's origin as a KKK hub and the lost cause propaganda, when they modernized, they aligned the answer to this. Broader efforts to contextualize what exactly happened and what it might mean today is what they're shooting for. But this is a serious case, and it puts into perspective, if you will, the sharp relief that Georgia's Confederate monuments protections versus what public expectations are for actual honesty in history. A court decision could either lock in traditional narrative, the South shall rise again. The South were basically fighting for a noble cause, just to live their own life and freedom, and not so much for slavery. Slavery is a really complicated issue in the Civil War because technically slaves had very little to do with the war. But it also opens the door for reinterpretation of things like contested sites. Why is this thing here? And it may actually have a unintended consequence of adding some of the changes to other things that should be, at least in my mind, more noble. Maybe it's a site that's dedicated to Native Americans and they want to change the narrative there going forward because in those cases as well, they were the tribes that lost out lives and land in fight battles with the white guys for the most part. The influence of symbols and what they mean are going to be put into play with these actual acts. It's going to bring underrepresented truths to public awareness and align the site itself with modern ethics and historical accuracy, what actually happened. But there's a law essentially saying the Confederates are going to get this when they put this up there. You can't change it. It literally is a law that's saying you must tell this story as poorly as possible to make it work. The plaintiffs are insisting that this is erasing heritage and original intent, which technically it is. The problem is the heritage and original intent doesn't go well for a Southern black guy like me. It's a clash that's going to happen. It's a broader cultural reckoning. And it's one of those things that is conversational because it's a thing we don't actually talk about. Shaping the public perception of history and memory and legacy is a big deal, no matter who you are, where your background is, and what your legacy happens to be. But Stone Mountain is a monument to a past, to the rebels who were, of course, traitors, to a losing side in a battle who were holding up a way of life that would not have been good for me. So, am I torn? No, I've been to Stone Mountain before. I've seen the monument. It's a nice park, pretty. I didn't walk the trails to see the Confederate flags because yeah, that's not my bag. But I've seen it. Big Rock, the carvings on the face of it. It's a nice, great memorial in the way that it looks and makes its way out and feels. But it doesn't speak to me. It doesn't speak to a lot of folks in the South these days as well, black and white. And the history behind it, if we can be honest about it, would be fine. But let's face it, we're not actually being honest about it.